Hi guys, Miniature Irishman here and welcome to this painting tutorial. Today I'm going to paint Gandalf the Grey from Citadel's Escape from Goblin Town set. Painted this model in just over 2 hours. So if you want to paint along, grab your brushes and your paints and let's get started. So before you put any colour on the model, it's advisable to hit it with a spray of primer, either through an airbrush or a spray can. For this model I'm using Citadel's Raithbone, and I find it gives a very smooth finish, doesn't leave a grainy texture on the model, just helps start out with a nice base. Once the primer is dry, the first colour we're going to use is Mechanicus Standard Grey. Thinned down with a couple of drops of water, we're just going to give the whole model a nice coat. You might need 2 coats depending on your primer. Just make sure all the cloak is covered and don't worry about making any mistakes at this point. Our second base colour now is Russ Grey, and that's for the hat and the scarf. Just like the cloak, 2 thin coats of this all over the hat and scarf, making sure you get the underside of the hat as well. I noticed at this point, when looking at the model, that Gandalf was missing a couple of fingers. I have no idea how this happened. Maybe I dropped them while I was priming. But look, when you're a beginner, mistakes are made, and all you can really do is crack on. So for the face and the hands, I used Bugmans Glow. Same principle, 2 nice thin coats. Try not to hit the beard and hat, just as sort of a way to practice your brush strokes. For the sword, including all the metal parts, I first base coated it all with Abaddon Black. Just be careful not to ruin your lovely paint job that you've done on your cloak at the minute. But if you do, don't worry about it, just use some Mechanicus Standard Grey to neaten back up. For the wraps around his 1.5 hand, I'm using Rakarth Flesh. Now this will look a bit bright at the minute, but once we start shading later on, it'll start to dull it down. Next, for all the leather straps around the model, I use Steel Legion Drab, just using the tip of my brush to pick out these details. If you want to, you can swap to a smaller brush if you feel more comfortable here. Just make sure you don't get any of the brown on the cloak, and if you do, just touch up with Mechanicus Standard Grey before the next step. Here I use Dawnstone to paint Gandalf's beard and hair. I thinned it down a little bit more than normal just so it gets into all those nooks and crannies. 2 thin coats of this, try not to hit the hat in the face. Just take your time with it and get nice coverage. For a quick and easy wood effect on Gandalf's staff, I use Contrast Wildwood. These new contrast paints can really help you get some quick and easy highlights. so I definitely recommend experimenting with them. So they are totally different than the normal paints you'll use, so just be careful when you're using them. And like I say, just have a bit of fun experimenting with them. Paint all the metal areas on the sword with Leadbelcher. At this point, if you want, you can try and pick out the little belt buckles on the front. Just use the tip of your brush and run it gently over the buckles to pick out those details. It's time now for some shading. This is what a lot of people find the most fun part of miniature painting. I use Nuln Oil to coat the cloak, sword, belt, and any of the metal. Be generous with this wash. Just wash it over the whole model so it flows into all the recesses. Just be careful that you don't see any pooling towards the bottom or any sort of puddles. If you do see that, wipe off your brush and use the tip just to soak up any of the excess paint. Cover all of these areas and leave to dry for around about an hour. Using the same process for the hat and the scarf, I use Drakenhof Nightshade. For the flesh, I use Karak Flesh tone, and for the hand wraps, I use Agrax Earthshade. The same as the cloak, just be generous but be careful with pulling, and give it plenty of time to dry. Once that shade's dry, you can now see that there really is some definition in those shadows. It really brings out the character in the model. Now it's time to just bring those colours up a little bit. So using Mechanicus standard grey, we're going to highlight the cloak. You're just going to try and pick out all the raised areas here, trying not to get any into the recessed areas. Again, if you do, don't worry, it's just a model. People won't be looking at it through a magnifying glass, but just take your time and try and pick out all the areas in the cloak that aren't in shadow. same way that you highlighted the cloak, you're going to do the beard using Dawnstone. Just use the tip of your brush trying to pick out the individual hairs around the beard and the hair. Then continue around the model with all the original base colours, just brightening up a bit, trying not to get any of the paint into those shadowy areas. Apart from the base, you can see now that this model is pretty much tabletop ready. Now you could go brighter with the highlights, even lighter and lighter through stage and stage. I won't do that for this video, but in my next video where I paint Balin, one of the dwarves from the same set, I will be layering up to a more brighter layer to show more contrast. Don't forget to subscribe and like so you don't miss that video. Hit that little notification button. And yeah, let's get to the base. To make a quick and easy base for any model really, you only need two things. You need PVA glue and some sort of basing material. For this video I'm going to use some cat litter, clean cat litter of course, but you can quite as easily use stuff from Games Workshop such as their texture paints, or you can go to a craft store and buy dedicated basing material. You could even go outside and collect some gravel and small stones. Just make sure if you are using that you bake it in the oven for half an hour just to kill some germs or any unwanted pests that happen to be inside the gravel. So first, base the whole base with PVA glue. I water it down a little bit just to help it flow. Make sure you cover the whole area and wipe off the rim with either your fingers or a piece of tissue. Dip your model into your basing material, making sure you get enough on the base. Then tap off the excess and give it a quick wipe and leave to dry. After about an hour, I like to add just another layer of PVA glue onto the base just to make it more sturdy. I thin this down with a little bit more water this time so it flows into all those cracks. Don't worry about the fact that it looks white, it will dry clear, and then give that about an hour to dry before you start painting. Paint the base now with any colour you wish. For this I'm using Scrag Brown, and once that's dry, give it a quick dry brush with Karak Stone or any lighter tone you wish from what you first started. Once that's all dry, I used Agrax Earthshade to shade the whole base, and then the final step is to paint the rim black, giving it a nice clean edge. And then if you wish you can put tufts of grass or anything such as this one from Games Workshop that I put on this model. And that's it, the miniature is done. So as you can see, in just a little over 2 hours you can get a quite nice tabletop ready standard on your paint jobs. Look, it's not going to win any awards, but it was fun to paint, and that's the whole point of this hobby, is that you enjoy it and experiment. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up guys, and don't forget to tune in to the next one where we paint Balin from Escape from Goblin Town set from Citadel. Thanks a lot. See ya.